Do you have items that you need to pack in?
Looks like we got news later. Hey guys, good morning, everybody. Today is Friday, December 19th. Happy Friday, everyone. 6:24 right now. We have market opening up shortly in about 6 minutes. So we got some news today. 7 o'clock, we got high impact news, existing home sales, Michigan consumer sentiment. It's forecasted to be negative, so we'll see how that comes out. But other than that, looks like we are good to go. So morning, Steven. Morning, Masij. Morning, Mendez. Yeah, Steven's looking to take the breakout for today. So the breakout for today is going to be well, it looks like it's going to be a buy, but I guess we'll see what happens here in a few. Or it might be a sell. We have a pending sell signal right there as, price moves along. All right, so if you guys looked at the list of trades, guys, the list of trades indicate that there's only one target entry for the day. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, we want the highest quality entry to take for the day. So there's a couple listed entries, but there's only one target entry. So that's all I'm going to be looking to take today, of course. So that's going to be basically the same one I've been looking at all week. But yeah, let's take a look at the market real quick as we continue on. So looking at the market over here, currently per candle, you can see over here on the 4 hour, I mean, it's pretty mixed across the board. It's bearish on the 4 hour. We have a nice big wick here on the 1 hour, nice big wick on the 30. Red candle for the 10 minute and the 5 minute. So it looks like price wants to come down. It's not necessarily there yet, but it's trying to come down. Looking over here at the overall trend. So it was bullish and off this big red candle, it just came down. It's now currently shifting to bearish on the 1 minute. Same with the 5 minute. So the one and the five are kind of aligned. The 10 minute here is still bullish. 30 minute here is neutral bearish. 1 hour is bearish, and the 4 hour here is neutral. Looking over here at market structure. So market structure over here is a little mixed. So the 1 minute's bearish, 5 minutes bullish, 15, 30, 1 hour, 4 hour, all bullish. We just had this huge red candle which came up. Not sure what caused this big red candle, but this is about I mean, it's not that huge. It's a 40-point candle. It looks huge because it's compared to the smaller candles behind it, but for the most part, it's not super, super huge. But yeah, I mean, it's starting to come down right now as we speak. 6:27 right now. We have market opening up shortly in about 3 minutes. So if the sell signal here holds, then this could be a possible sell entry for the breakout. We'll know what happens shortly, but right now, that's kind of what we got and what we're working with. Here's the market profile. So market profile over here, the daily candle is still bullish, so price may correct back up. Looks like it's just a temporary drop to the downside. Price pushed up over here to the value high, and then from there, price started to make its way to the downside. So basically pushed up, faked out, came back down below, and it's now trapped at the value high as we speak. So we'll see what happens in a few. Hey, Brock, morning. All right, we got the market opening up shortly in about 2 minutes, guys. If a buy signal here comes up, then the breakout will obviously be for a buy, but we'll see what happens. You guys can see a lot of choppiness here, back and forth. And yeah, it looks like we might get that buy signal right here. So we have a pending buy signal here. I don't know what's up with the alerts, but the alerts are lagging because we have a buy signal right there, but for whatever reason, I didn't get an alert for it. There we go. I mean, we get it eventually, but it is a little laggy sometimes. Yeah, Daniel said, I wonder what's causing all this volatility before market open. Yeah, same here. I have no idea. No idea. There's news at 7 o'clock, but it's not anytime soon. We got existing home sales and Michigan consumer sentiment coming up. Let's see, CNBC. Looks like the Fed might be speaking right now. Um, let's go to financial juice. Yeah, it says, unusual trade activity right now. But we'll see. Yeah. So, all right, guys, market is now open. Market is now open. Let's see. Daniel said, did Japan increase rates last night? Possibly. I mean, I didn't look, but possibly be the case there. So if you guys are looking to take the breakout, breakout is pushing up for a buy right there. We have a buy signal right here prior to open. The breakout has already hit 40 points there. So if you went for 40, that's already hit. If you're going for 80, so Steven, I told you to go for 80, right? It's about to hit full TP right there. So full TP right there for the breakout for 80 points. Did you get that, Steven? Okay, perfect. Steven caught that there for a buy. Nice work, Steven. So Steven is just taking the breakout in the morning. I mean, this is probably the best thing you can take, Steven. This is the only time I've ever seen you successful trading is taking the breakout, right? So I think for you personally, you should probably stick to and Steven is applying the original breakout. He's not applying the algo or anything that we've kind of adjusted in the future. Steven is just following the breakout as it moves. So nice work, Steven, on catching that. I think this is just your strategy, Steven. I mean, this is the only thing I've ever seen you be good at. Yeah, exactly. Steven said eat, sleep, work. Yeah, so if you keep doing this, Steven, with a 1 to 2 risk to reward, I think you should be fine. You know, just take one trade a day. Because if you do this, Steven, you only need to win twice a week. If you win twice a week, you'll be profitable long term. This is basically what I'm doing too, but I'm doing it with the algo entry. So, all right, Steven, yeah, have a good weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Yeah, if you guys have been around for a while, you guys probably know Steven. He's been on a roller coaster ride of trading. But yeah, I think he'll be good. Yeah. All right, Steven, we'll see you back here on Monday. Keep it up, stick to the breakout, and I think you should be fine. All right, so looking at the list of trades for today, first entry is coming up at 6:35. It's going to be against momentum, so we'll see how that there comes up. Hey, Sam, morning. Sam said, hi, biggest news is that Japanese interest rate 0.75 is forecasted. Okay, so the Japan interest rate did go up or it did adjust. Futures trader, good morning, sir. Hey, future trader. The sauna man said it's quad witching day. Okay, that's good to know too. So it's also cool. There's a couple different things happening today. So um, Japan interest rate, quad witching, Friday. We have the existing home sales and Michigan consumer sentiment as well at 7 o'clock. So there is quite a bit of news, or not quite a bit of news, but there's things happening behind the scenes that's causing a lot of this. One thing that I wanted to discuss today, guys, is we finally, or Masish finally, finished the stage 2 testing, and the stage 2 testing was pretty good. It confirmed what we were doing. I think what I need to stick to is so we changed the criteria a couple times from the start until now. What I think I need to adjust back to is the original criteria. So we're going to keep using the criteria that we're using now, but we're going to make some adjustments to like what's focused on and what's important, right? So I'm going to put this over here. and it's going to be in order of importance. So, so in order for it to meet minimum criteria, we're going to need a weighted average of, let me see, I forgot what I told. I think it was 55%, right? Or 60%. Let me just look over here real quick. And I'll show you guys like a little summary of the data as well. Yeah, so weight has to be above, we'll say 50% for a minimum, but it's got to be 60% for it to be listed. This is just so that we could have it listed, because obviously we don't want to be too strict on the listed ones. And then the overall is going to be, yeah, we'll just keep it at 50. But then for the target entries, this has got to be above 60%. And the overall, I mean, the overall win rate's not going to matter. It would still have to be above like 50 anyways to reach 60. So I'll just keep it at 55. So we basically, it's the same thing that we had before. It's just we're going to factor in max drawdown and win rate, or I guess we can take this win rate part off. Yeah, so we're still going to factor in max drawdown and the profit factor, but it's not going to be super, super necessary. The main criteria that we're going to be following is really just the win rate. And I'll show you the data in a few. So we have, let's see, we have the against momentum trade, which came up right here. This is against momentum. It has a max drawdown of 9%, weighted average of 51%, overall 50, buys at 42, sells at 53, profit factor of 2 points. So this right here is a sell entry running currently for the listed entry at 635. Not in this position, but it's wanted to mark it up for you guys right there. And the reason why we're going back to our previous data here is because the stage two analysis of the data indicated that this is what was most profitable following this specific data set. We have over 5 years of data. It shows that the algo is profitable over 5 years. Every month it's been profitable. And we'll go over those numbers in a few. We'll wait for the actual target entry for the day, and then once we're done with the target entry, we'll go over the specific details to kind of see what we're going to be looking for. Barack said, will you be trading any day next week, Sean? Asking for my planning. Won't be trading myself. It helped to know. Yeah, so I'll be trading next week, basically until Christmas Eve. So I think that's when the market volatility starts to really die down. So I'll be trading until Christmas Eve, and then obviously Christmas Eve, Christmas market's going to be closed, so I won't be trading on those days. Let's see, Smith said just passed my eval on NQ breakout. Nice work, Smith. So congrats on that right there. Talonji said, how can profit factor be so high, but drawdown also be high? Um, are you referring to like this specific trade, Talonji? Yeah, because it's 2 to 1, like what Masij mentioned. Yeah, so we never really go over 10%. I think once you go over 10%, the profit factor will kind of drop down a little bit, but for the most part, it's I mean, you'll see the profit factor still high above 10%, but it just depends on how many wins there are because the way that it's calculated is basically how many wins to losses, right? So like for example, if you have like one win and then it has more than if you have one loss and then you have two more than two wins that follow it, then a lot of times it'll still have a high profit factor and win rate. So profit factor and win rate usually tie in together. The max equity drawdown sometimes are slippage, right? I think it accounts for slippage sometimes. So depending on which entry you're looking at, uh, there might be slippage because if you look at the entry, so like let me show you real quick for the trade analysis. So see how this is average profit here or average winnings? There's gonna be some trades where like there's just always slippage, right? Like say the opening candle. Like if you look at the numbers for the 629, you're gonna see the numbers here are not gonna be very smooth. This is actually pretty decently close because you're gonna risk 1,500 to make 3,000, but you can see the slippage here is actually a little bigger on the sell side, just a little bigger by like 0.01%. So not for this specific one. I mean the max equity drawdown is not super bad here, but if you look at other times, like I would say like whole numbers, right? Like market open 6:30, sometimes probably 7 o'clock, sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock, because those times is like where there's a lot of volatility, there's manipulation happening. Like it's like manipulation that everybody knows about. Basically the whole numbers. So yeah, for this one right here, you're not going to see very much, but for other ones. Like I'll say like maybe like 635. The prop factor is like I would say two is not horrible. Or I mean it's not super great, but you can see like for example, this is 6.41 max drawdown and the prop factor is 2.667. For the 635, this one over here, it was at 9%, which is technically just one more loss, and the profit factor was at 2.0. So it just depends on like the statistics that are pulled from it. But yeah, no, I did notice that with a couple of trades too to Laundry. When I was putting my list together, I was like looking at the trades and the profit factor did look good and the win rate looked good, but I was like, damn, the max equity is like 13%, right? I know what you're talking about because I looked through every trade. Some of them were like 13%, some of them were like 15%. I'm like, I was about to put in my list, but then I looked at the max equity. I'm like, this doesn't make sense, or this just doesn't look like a good trade. So I ended up taking it off. Yeah, it just depends on the moves because sometimes we have these like breakouts. So the reason why 7:30, 6:45, like those times have a lot of like skew data is because that's when news happens, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so that's like a better explanation. So like see for example, here we have news at 7. If you look at the news from like this whole week, all the news is usually around the same time. So if you look at those specific trades, you'll see that like, certain times 5:30, 6:15. 7:30, whatever it may be, you're going to see a lot of max equity drawdown during those periods because that we have price spikes around those times. So yeah, hopefully I think that should make more sense to you now. Why certain times have bigger max equity. Yeah, exactly, because it's spiky. Because it'll spike to your stop loss and it'll get you on slippage and then it'll go back up. That's usually what happens. Yeah, because I was thinking the same thing last night. I was like, man, this is weird. It's weird how it could have a decent win rate and profit factor, but still have like max equity drawdown that kind of went pretty far off. All right, so the first trade right there at 635 hit, that was a win. I'm gonna put it in the notes, but I'm gonna put no trade because it was against momentum. 637 over here as well. This trade also hit, I think, or it's still running. Yeah, so that trade's still running. Um, Here's one thing that we're gonna be looking at, guys. It's a whole reason I set up this alert. So for 640, or you guys probably already know what's the target entry. It's the same one that's been coming up all week. Um, the one thing that we're going to look at, this is going to be the main thing to push us away from not taking the trade, right? So for this specific entry here, if we have a pending momentum, 3 candles prior to the actual entry, then we're just going to skip it. And I'll go over that later once we go over the data as well. Yeah, market here is pretty choppy. So like that tool that I showed you guys yesterday, this would probably be a good time to use it. Like what Daniel mentioned. Looks like Masij has already put it together. So yeah, play around with the Masij, see how it works. Obviously, just another reminder, guys, a lot kind of messaged me about it yesterday. You can't use these types of bots for a funded account. You can use it for eval passing, but not for funded or live accounts. So just something to keep in mind. The last thing you want to do is violate an account with Ninja with Apex and then get banned like some people. All right, we need to get a buy signal in order for us to have entry here, guys. We don't have the buy signal yet, but we need that buy signal in order for us to have this entry for target. It's here a little messed up. Okay, I'm gonna update this. All right, so here are the stats for that trade, guys. That trade has a 6.28 max equity drawdown, 60% win rate probability, 2.667 um, profit factor. Here's the weighted average. So 60 plus 63.64 divided by 200 has a weighted average of 61.82. So this meets all the criteria here for a target entry. It has a weighted average of 61.82, has an overall average of 60%, has a max equity drawdown of under 8, win rate is 60% overall, and profit factor is 2.667. However, in order for us to get this entry, we need to have a buy signal here, right? Because it's with momentum. Because we don't have a buy signal here, I don't think we're going to have an entry. This is the only target entry for the day, guys. So just keep that in mind. After we get this, I'll be looking over at the data that we were able to pull and the data that Masij was able to analyze. It basically confirmed that our criteria here is good long term, um, and that the strategy works with a big sample. Like, I think it was about over 1,000 trades in the sample size. So, oh, actually, there is already a buy signal. Sorry, guys, my bad. So sick. All right, yeah. So there is a buy signal there. My bad, guys. That not getting enough sleep, and I'm also sick right now. So yeah, there is a buy signal right now. Ah, man, there goes a flickering cell, guys. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to sit out of this one. If you guys want to take this trade, I mean, feel free. This is still gonna be a setup. We were almost there. We were almost there without the flickering momentum. And the flickering cell just came up. So unfortunately, this is gonna be one of those trades that I skip. And I'm gonna show you guys the data for why I'm gonna be skipping this trade. Um, so let's see. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Let's see. So iPhone over here mentioned. So he was looking back at some clips from October, our best month trading the algo. I noticed when we had our 9-day win streak, most of, if not all of those trades came were from pre-market. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the majority of our October wins in general came from pre-market. Um, what was the reason we stopped taking pre-market trades if we was working so well for us? Um, what happened a lot of those times is that and here, let's just look at this trade real quick. So good thing we skipped the trade here because look, it didn't work, right? So I'm gonna show you guys the data on this, why we skipped the flickering momentum, right? It's a good thing we skipped it because look what happened. We would have lost the trade, right? So back to iPhone's question about pre-market trades. So the reason why we stopped taking pre-market trades was because the market would just get flat around pre-market. Like there was a period where the pre-market movement was like really high. I think that was like early October, and then we started to notice that the market would just stay flat. And this is where it became a really big problem. And you can see over here, it's like pretty obvious because the pre-market trades would happen between like um 5:30 and 6, right? So let me just draw a line here. So 5:30 and then up until market open. So like say for example, we had an entry here for a sell, right? Like say there was an entry here. We're just gonna use 555 as an example. So see how like this here, and we used a 40-20, right? See how like nothing would happen for like a long time. What happened when it opened was that we would have a spike, or sometimes it would stay flat and then it would just spike to our stop loss because sometimes we would just be holding on to the position, and then we'll just use this for an example as well. Say if we were taking a buy here, like at 6:10 or whatever, maybe. What would happen is we would get a lot of manipulation right before market open. So see, right, like with this entry, this is just an example. It's not that there was an entry at 6:16, but we're just going to use this as an example here. So basically, if we had a buy right here at 6:15, price would pretty much go sideways until right before market open. We'd get manipulation where it would spike us out and then push it right through. Like we started to run into this problem a lot. And this is a 20-point stop loss. Even if we did a 60-30, you'd still run into the same problem. It's just the candles right before open. See, like these aren't even the opening candles, right? But this is right before open. What happens right before opens, we have a lot of manipulation. And then sometimes you get lucky and hit your target. Sometimes you get unlucky and it spikes you out, right? That's the main reason why we stopped taking the pre-market trades. They were good while they lasted. And then after a while, yeah, after a while, the volatility would just go crazy because we would have, I think during October, that's when we had the government shutdown. It was actually good during the government shutdown because we didn't have this pre-market like kind of spiky move. But once the government started reopening, we started having like the spiky moves and whatnot. So that's the main reason why we stopped doing pre-market. I mean, if we didn't have that manipulation pre-market, I would have loved to take the pre-market trades because that's like, where the manipulation isn't happening and you can kind of get in and out very quickly. But now that the government's reopened, we actually get a lot of like probably 2 to 5 minutes before market open, we have these types of like weird candles that spike back and forth. And our stop loss is too tight, so we get caught up in those trades. All right, so if you guys are looking to take entries here, so let me just keep updating the yeah, let me keep updating the spreadsheet over here. So 637, this be a loss. Of course, I'm having connection loss today. 649, let me see. These are all for buys, so there's actually no entries here. So 649, and I'll put the list up here. No, we don't really need to hide the list anymore because there's no more target entries. But let me put the list up here so that we can kind of see what we're working with. What's up with Discord today? Discord is not loading. Okay, here we go. Why does it do that? All right, here. Sorry, guys. I gotta download it first. Hmm. I don't know. Discord is really laggy today for some reason. Okay, whatever. I got it right here. All right, here are listed entries. I usually don't share this, but whatever. We're done with our entries for the day. So we only had one target entry at, sorry guys, 1 second. Man, I hate being sick. Okay, so we only had one target entry today at 6:48. This was skipped because of the flickering momentum. We had a couple entries over here come up at 6:48, or sorry, 6:49, 6:50. It's a cluster of entries right here. These were all buy entries. None of them came up. So 6:50 right here. We had a sell momentum, no entry. Let me just adjust this a little bit. I just want to take the entries off the list because it's messy. Okay, there we go. So 6:49, I'm gonna put that as a no entry. 6:50, this is also no entry. 6:54, um, also no entry. Or, we're gonna put that, I think that's a loss, right? I'm just putting this for the list of trades, not the ones that we took, of course. I'll show you guys a spreadsheet in a few, but uh we want to document this as realistic as possible so that we can kind of see what the overall looks like for forward testing. And then 721. All right, we'll come back to that in a few. But I've updated the spreadsheet over here. And I'll show you guys a spreadsheet. So this week's actually not a good week at all. Or in a sense, it's not a good week. So here are the trades for this week. We'll just do the math real quick. Okay, so we're currently at -2R. This is just listed all the trades. So we had a 4R right here, 5R, -2, that's negative, that's +3R, -2, that's +1R, and then -2 again today. So this is -1R for the week. If you took every single trade that came up. For our actual official entries over here, we had a +2R on Monday, -1R on Tuesday. That's a +1R, -1R here on Wednesday. So that's another negative. So that's break even. No trades on Thursday. We skipped the 6:48 because it was a flickering momentum. And then same thing today. We skipped the 6:48 because it was a flickering momentum. There's no trade, but it did lose. So with that being the case, we're at break even for the official trades that came up that we took. And then for the total entries, it's that -1R for the day. If this one at 721 wins, then it's going to push it back into a +1R. But we'll see what happens when we get closer to that point. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that right there. Let me check the chat to see if I'm missing anything real quick before we go over the data that Masij was able to analyze. Um, yeah, let's see. So let's see. Masij said, don't worry, all market times will be tested at stage 4. We'll know the best times for the 10 different assets. It could be 3 a.m., it could be 2 p.m. Yeah, exactly. So once we have the stage 3 and stage 4 data, guys, and you guys were going to see this is a lot of data that Masij was able to pull up. It's 4 million lines of data. So 4 million, basically like 4 million trades that we have listed using all the different parameters, different time frames, and all for YM. So, Masij did a crazy amount of work on this. A huge thank you to Masij for doing this for us. We're really digging into a extremely deep dive of the algo to see what's like the specific time and day and parameters and whatever we should be using to get the best out of this algo, right? And I'll show you guys the statistics in a few. So let me just go over real quick. Masij made 3,200 on one contract using the trade bot. He copied me better. Yeah, the chop is good for it, right, Masij? Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Masij is still refining it, but he'll give it to us on Monday or Tuesday. Okay, perfect. That's great. And iPhone today, I understand Masij just stating, I think we're most profitable with pre-market. Yeah. So once we have the data, we'll be able to know exactly. But all right, we don't have any trades until 7:21. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to be going over the just a quick summary of the data that Masij was able to pull. Okay, so here's the deep analysis. I just highlighted the important stuff basically. This is a lot of data here though. So this is just a summary. So basically what Masij was able to do here, and I'll just show you guys over here. So this is the criteria that was used for identifying entries. Overall win rate threshold of 55%, weighted average of 60%, the formula for the weighted average, etc. So this is basically just the requirements to identify entries, right? Going down a little further, so we have a lot of stuff here. This is just, it's information that's important, but for you guys, it doesn't really matter. This is mainly for me and Masij to kind of dig into and understand what we're looking for, right? So these are basically the statistics and stuff, or just for optimal configuration. A 30-point stop loss, 60-point profit target, risk reward is 1 to 2, expected value per trade, etc. This is, again, not important to you guys, but, and this is actually important. So this right here is the performance summary. This is a sample of 1,124 trades, right? So, obviously we're using a 20 trade sample here. So this stuff isn't like super useful in a sense looking at the long-term data, right? But the information over here, this is a data sample of 1,124 trades. So if you can find a strategy that's profitable over 1,124 trades, then this is huge, right? This is 5 years of data. So if it shows that the algo is profitable for 5 years straight, then there's no denying that the strategy works, right? And that's why this is why we're digging so deep into this specific strategy because we have the numbers in front of us. So the 5 year data here shows that there's 474 trades or 472 wins, 652 losses, and it has a win rate of 42%. This is big, guys. This edge, because to be profitable with a 1 to 2 risk reward, you only need 33%, right? You need to be above 33%. So 42 minus 33%, this gives us a 9-point edge. That's a pretty big edge for a 5 year data span, right? This isn't like for 1 year, for a 1 week, or for 1 month. This shows that if you traded this specific strategy for 5 years, you'd have a 9% edge. This is the profitability for just one contract, right? So like for 43,800. So like for example, that's just one contract. If you were to do this with multiple contracts, and you're not going to stay at one contract, right? You're obviously going to scale. So you'd be at 43,800. If you were to do this with 10 contracts, that's how much profit you would make, right? 40,000. And then if you wanted to trade with Apex or anything like that, times 20, it's a lot of profit, right? For a short period of time. And these are the specific statistics of it. This is why we're sticking to a 30-point stop loss, 60-point TP, and why we're sticking to the rules here. I'm gonna dig even deeper to this. So this is just raw data based off taking every single trade that comes up, right? But there's gonna be things that we can do to prevent losses, right? Just like what we did today. We saw the flickering momentum that prevented us from taking a loss. If you can prevent more losses, you're gonna have more profitability long term because your profit factor is gonna be even higher. So that's the specific basics of the data, and we'll go down a little further here. So basically, Masij tested this on 28 different configurations. We tested it based on ATR. We tested it based on a 1-to-1, 30-30. These are still good too. Like you can see there's more profitability here as well, and the win rate's a little bit higher, but this is a 1-to-1. The main thing that I was concerned about was max equity drawdown, right? So the max equity drawdown, if you're doing a 1-to-1, is about 5,850, kind of high, right? And then you could have 15 back-to-back losses. These are like the things that are a little important in a sense, because you want to make sure that you don't have enough losses to blow your account, right? We're basically making it impossible to blow our account. So ATR over here, still high losses. 40-20 over here, it has 16 back-to-back losses. So this is super great, but like I said, you don't want to blow your account. This is what we decided to go with, 30-60. This here had a good baseline, right? So right here, it only has 9 back-to-back losses max, and the max equity drawdown is only 2,850, right? So if you're doing one contract and you have a $10,000 account, you can suffer a 2,850 drawdown before you go into these big win streaks because there's days where you have 11 back-to-back wins. Um, so again, this is a sample size of 5 years of data, 1,124 trades, and the numbers here are great. Going down a little further, we have again a different criteria here. Basically, Masij ran this through 28 different scenarios based off different ATRs, based off different TP stop losses, right? 2040 stop loss TP, 4080. This stuff here, again, they're good, they work, but you go into some massive drawdown sometimes. Like for example, right here, 5,000 drawdown, 11 back-to-back losses for 4080. I don't think I could stomach that because I could blow my account if that happens, right? 2020 over here. And we basically were looking for like what had the least amount of drawdown, what had the highest win rate, and what yielded the most profit. Because what happens is if you can find something that has a good enough win rate, profit factor, minimum max equity drawdown, you can just scale that account. So, we have all the data here again for 28 different configurations. There's going to be more configurations because Masij is going to go farther and farther into the data, into the 10-year data, the 15-year data, etc., to see how well this strategy has worked 15 years in the past, right? So again, we have all the statistics here. These are going to be all of the statistics if you were to look at all of the configurations. Again, this is unimportant to most of you, but to us, it's important because this data is going to tell us what to focus on and what to not focus on. So here are like the monthly performances for, and this is what I was talking about. So from January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, you can see here that it's always profitable, right? If you took for the most part, a lot of these trades here, the monthly P&L, it's positive, right? January is positive, February is positive, March is positive, and they're all about the same, right? You don't really have any crazy months. They're on average going to be about like a 43% win rate. So yeah, you have to expect losses because losses are going to happen, but you're going to have more wins than losses, of course. And if you're able to avoid losses, you're going to have more wins in total. So looking at this so far, every month is about the same, about 4,000 profit. The win rate stays around 40%. And then obviously October here was like one of the bigger months. Uh, and then November, of course. So November is still profitable. It's not, we didn't take as many trades, but it was still profitable. Now, looking over here at the time of day analysis, this is what we were talking about earlier about like where the better trades come up. It seems like the best trades come up between 7 and 7:30. So 7 and 7:30, that's usually we have the entry coming up right here at 7:21. It's not coming up yet, but we do have this one coming up right here. Um, you can see the win rate over here is a little higher in the morning between 6:30 market open and 7 o'clock. Basically had about a 43% probability of win rate. And then the P&L is about 8,000. This is using one contract. Now looking over here between 7 and 7:30, it had a little bit lesser of a win rate, 42%, but the profitability is a lot higher because there was more trades around this period. And then later mid-morning, this was between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. Also good, but they're pretty balanced. So it shows that like it doesn't really matter when you trade it. They're all profitable in a sense. These are the performances by day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This indicated that there was no significant directional edge. I mean, basically for the most part, it worked well across the board. It's about 40% either way. So that means that we can trade every day. We don't have to skip days. And then this is where it became really important with the loss pattern identification. So like looking at when we lost trades, and that's where the flickering momentum came into play, right? This is why we avoid trades during flickering momentum, is because these are what causes the losing trades, right? We have weak momentum separation, meaning the flickering momentum, right? We have momentum going in one direction. And if you have a flickering momentum the other way, it's showing that the momentum is weakening. The second thing here is the unstable trend, right? That's another thing there to be concerned about. And that's also dealing with flickering momentum because momentum could be going one direction, but if it's flickering the other way, it's indicating that the trend is attempting to shift. And then misalignment with the direction, same thing. So all of these basically align with a flickering momentum. The thing that's important here really is how to avoid it. So like for example, here, if you just avoid it in total, So here's a net impact. If we avoided pretty much the flickering momentum, we would avoid losing 20,550. This is with one contract. And the wins would improve by 8,700. So with this being the case, our win rate went from 44% to now 46.2%. And then we filtered it for a new P&L of an increased 68,550. So with that being the case, it makes sense to skip certain trades, right? Because we're going to have less losses, more wins. So, and then looking over here at the seasonal patterns, you can see that we have the statistics over here. Of course, Q1 is the strong quarter, so expect there to be a lot of trades and good trades between January and March. April is typically a solid quarter as well. July is a strong quarter, so between July and September, it's good. And then October to November, it's usually good early in Q4. So we had a really good October, and then it starts to phase out November, December. So just something there to keep in mind. But it shows that the strategy works well all year round. So that's a key thing here, right? This isn't a seasonal strategy. The strategy works all year round, whether it be Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, etc. And I think that's about it. So yeah, like basically over here, the conclusion from a siege was that, a 30-point stop loss, 60-point TP is going to be the best criteria to use. It has an exceptional positive expectancy across 1,124 trades over 236 trading days. It has a win rate of 42%. Using a 1 to 2 risk reward, we only need above a 33% to break even, and the strategy generates an 8.67 edge. So, if you guys care about the numbers are there. This was just confirmation that the strategy works and why we're going to continue to focus drilling down on it to make it better. So, yeah, that's pretty much all that we have right there. I mean, if you guys have any questions regarding the data, feel free to let me know or hop into the chat. But that's pretty much the data that we have specifically. And this is only for like a 5-year sample, right? Like we have a lot more to go. So the thing is, if this strategy is profitable for 5 years, and the numbers don't lie, right? Those numbers are realistic numbers. I'm curious to see how the alpha survives over a longer period of time. Andrew, so the best entries for sure going to be at 3 a.m. or something. I mean, if that's the case, I will wake up at 3 a.m. to take that trade. Yeah, whatever the data shows, and once we can like pull all that data and we can figure out like, what's the consistent pattern? Like, where does the entry typically come up very, very well? Like, for example, if we have an entry that comes up at like 6:30 or at 3:30 a.m. every single day for like 15 years, you bet I'm gonna wake up every day at 6:30 and I'm gonna take that or I'm gonna look for that trade. Um, because you're just using the data, right? You're using statistics to identify like what's the actual like what's a good entry to take every single day. I'd rather have that. I'd rather have something like that than to be watching the chart every morning, right? I'd rather just have a specific time, like even if it's like 2 a.m., 2 a.m. entry and that trade hits like 60% of the time for like 5 years or 15 years or however long it may be. If that's going to be my one trade for the day, I don't mind waking up every day to take that one trade. Or, at some point in the future, I can probably set up a bot to just take it for me, of course. Right? That's the power of having quantitative data, right? This is quant trading. Like you have the data in front of you, you have and then use the data. You're not trading off discretion. And the numbers are just going to confirm that, it's something that you can follow without having to do any thinking, really. Yeah, Masishi, that's huge. 9% with no adjustment over 5 years. So yeah, the thing is like that's the 9% is like without making adjustments, right? If we start to factor in the flickering momentum, like for example, if you just look at the trades from this week, there's we missed a lot of trades, or we could have skipped a lot of trades because of the flickering momentum, right? So for example, I'm looking over here at the statistics for this week. If we skipped Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday today, we actually would be up 2R for the week, right? Because we had a win over here on Monday, and then we would have had a win over here on Tuesday as well. But I ended up taking this trade here after, which took the loss. And then we had a loss yesterday or Wednesday. And then we could have skipped these trades over here because of the flickering momentum. But now we know. We know that the flickering momentum is actually really important to follow. So moving forward, hopefully that's going to help a lot with our entries. Let's see. Nikki said, "Can you share that sheet on Discord?" I'll do it a little later. I have to. It's in my drive, so I have to convert it over to a PDF and then post it up to the Discord. But yeah, I'll share it a little later. iPhone says the data shows pre-market. The this so the stage two data didn't incorporate pre-market because we didn't think to look at pre-market because we weren't bothering to like even trade during that period. So yeah, Masij mentioned that he's going to be testing it in the future stages, stage three and stage four. So over the next couple months, I think by February probably, we should have all the data in line. So really, it's just hanging on until February. Honestly, it's hanging on and trying to stay consistent from now until February, and then by February, hopefully by then we'll be able to have enough data to really know exactly what time, what asset, what TP stop loss to use, etc. Yeah, I mean this is going to be huge, guys, because this is an edge that's lasted. Like I don't know any other strategies that work all year round like this. Because the thing is, this strategy is not really trend based, right? A lot of strategies are trend based or mean reversion. Trend based are going with the trend, and mean reversion are going opposite. This is both because we're just trading based off momentum on the 1 minute. So if you look at a lot of strategies, or if you try different strategies over the years, you'll see that a lot of strategies are seasonal. They only work during certain periods. But from the data here, the data shows that this strategy works all year round, right? I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing here is that it works all year round. I think that's the crazy thing about this strategy. Like it never really dies out. It has a win rate between, for Q1 it was 43%, Q2 it had a 41%. Again, you just need above a 33% to be profitable. So, yeah, you might not make a ton of profit trading the strategy, but you're going to make consistent profit and you're not going to blow your account. I think that's the key thing. It's the key selling point for us to really dial down on this. Because yeah, there's a lot of strategies out there that you can make a lot of profit, but they'll also blow your account, right? I'm sure like the orb, right? If you apply the orb is good when it's good, but when it's not good, it's really horrible. It's really easy to blow your account. Let's actually take a look at the orb for today. So the orb for today, if you guys took it, um, I have been looking at the orb. I'm just always curious how people are doing well with the orb when the orb here actually isn't doing well, right? In a sense. So here's the orb again. If you took it, would have lost. If you entered for the break and retest, if you took the orb over here on the close, it still would have lost. So, like I said, the orb here is good when it's working, but when it's not working, it just burns a hole in your account. So, yeah. All right. With that being the case, guys, let's see. We have the next entry coming up right here at 7:21, and we'll see when it's there. Yeah, no problem, Nikki. Yeah, Masih said the orb has no statistical edge over a long period of time. Yeah, I agree. Like you have to adjust it. Like the orb, you can't just take it one way. Like for example, with this strategy, we're just taking it one way all year round, right? So that's why like the data here is really good and really important because we're able to find that this works pretty much. I mean, it pretty much works all year round with no adjustments, right? I think that's the key thing. It's the fact that you can make all of the you can use it with no adjustments. I think that's the best part about it. The only thing that we're doing is like we have the raw data, and the raw data shows without adjustments it's profitable, but now we're starting to incorporate the flickering momentum, and that's going to make profitability even higher. Maybe less trades, but profitability is still higher. And this is what's important for me specifically, because for the hedge fund, my goal isn't really to make a ton of profit for everybody. My goal is really to conserve capital and make profit consistently month over month. So that's why I've kind of that's why you see a lot of people like, or not people, but in general, hedge funds, they don't make a huge percentage, right? They're making like X amount of percentage per year. And of course, you're going to see these YouTube traders who are making like 100%, but then they don't show you when they blow their account, right? Um, I think that's like the big misconception with trading. You'll see traders who will make like maybe 100% gains or 200% gains and 300% gains like that, but they'll only show you the wins. They don't show you when they actually blow the account, because eventually these people do blow their accounts, because a lot of the strategies that they apply with technical analysis don't have a long-term statistical edge. That's why a lot of these hedge funds and market makers and market takers, everybody uses quant data because they want to have that statistical edge long term. Yeah, Masih said, yeah, no one's making 100% gains over multiple years, only senators. Yeah, literally. Unless you're just doing buy and hold, right? And here's the thing too. I think you had the data here, right? So where's the buy and hold data that I had here? Okay, so here's the comparative benchmark, right? So if you were to do buy and hold of YM from January to November for this year, the YM index gave a 12.4% return, right? The strategy on 10,000 gave a 438%. So it outperformed it by a ton, right? If you want to compare it to risk-free interest rates, right? The 1-year Treasury is 4.5. Again, the strategy yielded a crazy amount, 400%, if you were to take every trade. Same with the passive index futures. So, not to say that this is not possible, but the data here shows that it's possible to beat the market and to beat it consistently using just this one algo strategy. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what's to come and what's to happen. We have, this is just the beginning. I just introduced this algo to you guys like a month ago. So we've got uh we've got a lot of stuff to pretty much build off, right? We're gonna be putting money into this and time into this and just a lot of stuff here. So yeah, anyways, this is going to be our criteria. Of course, we're going to keep it to like the weighted average, overall average, and then we're going to use the flickering momentum as reasons not to take the trade. I'm not going to use any other factors. Like I'm not going to use trend. I'm not going to use market structure. I'm just going to use flickering momentum to avoid certain trades, because the numbers they're undeniable. You got to stick to the strategy and you got to follow the numbers here. Yeah, Barack said, awesome work done on this algo edge. Thank you, Sean Masij. This has really come of age. Yeah, no, of course, definitely. Jesus said, I love the data-driven decision making. So this is awesome. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, you're good with numbers, right? Jesus, you're like, you're a numbers guy. So if the numbers speak to you and they tell you that, this strategy is something that should be trusted, obviously we're gonna go through road bumps and hiccups and stuff like that along the way. But long term, it does look like it should work out long, like, in general. So it's pretty exciting because so I'm excited for next year because it's gonna be a full year of data. So like right here, for example, I have the spreadsheet. This is only from like November, right? Because I only started documenting the data. Next year is going to be from January up until the end of the year. So I'm really excited to see what we come up with. I'm going to keep all of the actual data, then I'm going to have just my official trades also listed. So, all right, guys, there's this entry right here at 721. This is with momentum. So we have a sell momentum here. Trade came up right here, and it is currently running as we speak. I'm not in this position right here because it did not meet the criteria for a target entry. So the 721 entry right here is with momentum. It has a 7.81 max drawdown, weighted average of 55%, overall average of 50%, buys at 40, sells at 70. has a profit factor of 1.855, and it's for a sell. Like I said, in order for it to be a target entry, it has to have a weighted win rate of 60%, right? It's almost there, but not quite. It's at 55. It needs to be at 60. And the overall win rate has to be at 55, which it's not. So we have strict criteria here for the target entries because we only want the best entries available, right? So we're keeping it strict. Right now, I'm still sticking to one trade per day. So obviously, even if we had more listed entries, I would be done. But once we have more data closer to February, I'll be able to decide whether I want to take more entries or not. But I think I'm good with what we have right now. One entry per day, one target entry to focus on, and just letting it run from there. Sam said, great work with the algo guys. Uh, with time, it's only getting better. Yeah, no, definitely, Sam. We're building on it, so it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, you get any trades for the day, Sam? I think you got that MPS. Yeah, nice. I just saw your message up there. MPS that you caught earlier for that buy. So nice work on catching that MPS V2 earlier. One thing that I was looking at, and this is what CJ's been doing. I don't know if CJ's here right now, but no, it looks like CJ took the week off. So CJ made some pretty good profit for this week, and CJ pretty much wrapped it up, unless CJ's just following. But what CJ's been doing is looking at these algo entries and looking for entries that surround it, right? So for example, we have the 721 entry. I mean, it's not, I don't see anything here, but if you saw like a V1 variation here, that'd be a nice confirmation to take that sell there, right? Um, but yeah, I talked about this yesterday. So if you guys want to use the algo just to identify when to enter, most of our entries happen like this, right? Like basically all of our entries are based like this or the other way, the other direction. It's either going up or it's going down. So if you guys are looking at this stuff here, I'll show you what strategies to kind of look for here. So this is going to be the momentum scalp. If you want to enter at the bottom of or the middle of this area, if you're looking for this right here, this could be a V1 variation. So if you want to tie the algo with specific strategies, this is what you would be looking for, right? So this is what you want to look for. Like for example, if you have an entry at 721 and if there's a V1 variation right here, and just say for example this is 721 or you have something in between here. Like say your algo entry is right here for a sell, right? And you have a V1 variation right here. You can take that entry because you know price is going to come down. You have a confluence. Vice versa. If you have like 740 right here, say if this is against momentum and you have a market flow V2 right there, you can take your entry right there, right? Because you have a confluence with it. So again, if you guys have, or if you guys have been following me for a while now and you know the older strategies, you can apply those strategies in line with the algo, right? You have the timestamp there. So for example, say like 721, this is with momentum. Say your entry is like right here, right? And you have an MPS V2, which is like right here. That'll give you confidence that price is going to push in that direction. So just stuff to look for there. If you guys are looking to use that or do that, we have a whole library of strategies that you guys can look at. I mean, it's not available to the general public anymore, so you guys can use that to your advantage, of course. Yeah, Masij said also the stage two is if you are taking market orders. Stage three will have more limit orders and time range around entry analysis. Yeah, exactly. So like what Masij mentioned, it's going to be more detailed with the entries and very specific. I'm gonna shut down my laptop because I'm not taking any trades. I'm just done for the day. Uh, let's see. The next entry is going to be at 740. It's going to be a against momentum. Nice. Yeah, Daniel said the 721 just hit confluence with the MPSV2. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, Dijon said close out of it halfway, but that's me for the week. See y'all next week. All right, Dijon, we'll see you back here next week. So Dijon caught it to here about 40 points, looks like, or less, and then he pulled out for profit. So nice work right there. So here's another thing that I saw from the data, and I don't know if this is something that we'll really look into because the risk reward isn't great. But one thing that I looked at here at the data was that specific stop losses and specific targets, right? So like looking at this over here, if you used a stop loss of 30 points, this was the most profitable, right? And then the most profitable here for a profit target was 40 points. So this would be a little bit more of a little bit more than a one-to-one. But I mean this might be something to look at for some people too if you want to play around with it. A 40-point target with a 30-point stop loss. It's like about a one-to-one, except it gives you a little more cushion for profit. But these two yielded the highest profitability. Like basically the configurations with 40-point targets and the configurations with 30-point stop losses. So like I said, again, this data is going to be really helpful because you can kind of put together little things that could help with stuff like that. So the trade here is still running. This is a 721 entry. I'm kind of curious now to see the profitability of this has to be like pretty high at 48. Yes, the profit factor is a little higher. 31,800, you know, profitability is still higher with the 60/30, but yeah, I mean if that's something you guys want to play around with and kind of play around with the 40/30, I mean that's it yields pretty high. I think eventually it'll probably balance out to about the same though, so it's probably not going to make a huge difference. So you guys see this craziness happening right here? Huge spikes back and forth. So this thing came up, came down, and came right back up right there. This is why like sometimes a 60-point target is a little tricky because it's a little far out. If you went for the 40 there, I mean obviously that would have hit, right? But all right, I'm going to update the spreadsheet again real quick. So again, this week, if you were looking at every single trade, it wasn't a good week this week, which is okay. It's fine. This is one of those weeks that are just not that great for every single trade. Again, this is why we have to use criteria to avoid certain trades in certain days and certain times because not every trade is going to be a hitter, right? Let's see. Barack said, I'm growing bias towards NQ. It's been a YM saver for me. Yeah, Barack said, though the minimum risk is 600 considering 30 points compared to YM at 150 in more than 30 days, I found a difficulty on getting entries with YM. NQ has somehow delivered for me. The thing is with NQ, it's not based off points, Brock. It's going off based off ticks. That's why the risk is different. Like 10 points for NQ and 10 points for YM are completely different. It'd basically be like 30 because it's based off the ticks. So that's why the numbers are different. That's why I can't really trade between NQ and YM because the numbers are so different. Like if you put 10 points for NQ, it's not going to equate to the same amount. I think it's times three. Yeah, it's the same with gold. Gold's kind of it's by ticks as well. So like the contract sizing is different, the risk reward is different, the numbers are different. Because they're I think YM is the only one that's based off points. I think everybody else uses ticks. NQ, ES, GC, those types of assets, they all use ticks for the most part. Yeah, Talanji said he was doing 40-25 before we switched to 60-30. Made a difference. Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Asif said, "Hello, this shop is great. 6,400 for the trade bot. Yeah, nice, nice. Okay, that's smart, Masij. Yeah, so Masij kind of edited where he made some changes to the bot yesterday that I was showing you guys. Basically, when momentum picks up, it just stops, which is smart. I think that's the key thing, Masij. I think when momentum picks up like that, it should just clear out all positions, right? And I'm pretty sure that's what you did. It just flattens everything out. Because now that we have that safeguard or that safeguard's available, you know, definitely able to so like like you mentioned with that bot, I think that bot would be really good to use during a time like this, basically between 7:30 or even 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock until 8 o'clock, or just watch for the chop to start happening. Once market starts to chop up like this, you can just run the bot. Are you running it on your Apex Message, or are you running it on a sim? So, because that's one thing that I found to be a problem when I ran the bot on the sim before was that I don't think it was taking commissions into consideration and then also slippage because it's like immediate executions, right? So, yeah, I'm just curious because I think it would be kind of interesting to run it on like a live account. Just like set a risk parameter of like maybe lose 1,000, make 2,000, and then just cut it off for the day. I think it would be interesting. Daniel said, I wonder if we can find a prop firm that would successfully run this bot. There probably is some out there. Um, it'd have to be a smaller company though. These bigger companies, they have so much resources to find out if you're using a bot or not. Like Apex, um, I mean, it's pretty obvious, if you're using a bot because it shows that it's taking so many entries within every second. Like every second, it's like buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. So they know that like, it's obvious that it's a bot because you can't hit buy, sell that quickly. Um, and I'm sure a lot of these companies will just, they'll find ways to boot you. I think you'd have to use a personal. Facetious, like, I mean, Jesus. Yeah. So here's a problem too with the sorry, I'm blowing my nose, man. I can't breathe. God, I hate being sick. Um, but yeah, so I think that's something that I will probably um like I run the bot on like a personal account. I wouldn't really use it on prop accounts very much unless you're just passing the eval. Um, Yeah, just having a personal account and then letting it run with like, a max. Did you set a max equity drawdown on yours, Masish? I'm just curious because I wonder like what was the max drawdown that you run into? Okay, 15. No, that's perfect. Yeah, I would do the same thing. I think I would do the same thing. I would do about 1,000 or 1,500, and kind of just let it run, for the most part, and then follow it. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So Masih said max he got in this chop was negative 450, which is perfect. Yeah, I think that's the main concern because when I showed you guys the bot yesterday, it was breaking like when there was breakouts with these big candles, it would like just destroy the account. But since Masih has a safeguard in place to, flatten out positions if the momentum picks up, then that helps as well. The one thing I was looking at too, Masih, and it's probably not going to be useful, or I mean, it could be, is that like when we have momentum signal, I would just take buys in that direction, right? Because every time it pulls back, it's like fill, 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 and then it would just keep pushing up higher. It's just a little more work though to do it that way. I think it's better to just go both ways, right? Use it mainly for a choppy market because the market's chopping like about 80% of the time anyways. Gosh, okay, just automatically. Awesome. Gotcha, yeah. So Mesij has it where it adjusts automatically based on if it's chopping or directional. Yeah, I think this type of tool is good with just one account. It's not good on copier accounts because I've ran it on the copier with I was curious to see like how it would work. And what happens is that there's like a disconnect of like orders sometimes. Like for the main account, it would be like entering positions, and then for the copier accounts, it'd be kind of delayed. So um it'd be exiting, right? So some of them are entering, some of them are exiting, and then they're not aligned. So yeah, I think it's gonna be hard to do it copying. It's better with just one account. So you know exactly what's going on. And there's no issues with connection. Let's see, Barack said maybe we can have a year-end bash next year. Plan to have a place for our children to play, know each other for a week. Yeah, no, of course, Barack. I think that'd be cool if people were interested in that. I mean, we've always talked about having a group meeting at some point, right? I think that's going to be probably the first thing too. And if you want to bring your kids, feel free to bring your kids. At some point, we'll try to set this up. I think also now because we're more of a private, we're more private and close knit now, since I'm not opening this group to the public. I think that's even better, right? I think it's even better that way because we all know each other. We're not random strangers and stuff like that. And if you guys are down to meet up, we could, of course. But for this year, let's make a ton of money with this alcohol and let's make a ton of money with this bot that Messi is building. And I think it's going to make things a whole lot easier to travel and meet up with each other or have some sort of meetup. But I'm excited. I think 2026 is going to be a huge year for all of us, um, because the algo is going to have so much, improvement in a sense. And yeah, there's just going to be a lot. I think 2026 is going to be a really big breakthrough year for a lot of people, including myself. I've been doing pretty good this year so far. So what I did, I want to show you guys. I don't have it on here. Let me see. Oh, I closed my trader sync. So what I was gonna say is I'm lowering my sizes and I'm just trading on certain less accounts for the rest of the year, guys, because I want to keep my net profit. Here, let me see. I want to put this over here. There's my trader sync. So I'm trying to keep my net prop or my gross profit above 1 million, right? Because my goal was to make 1 million for the year, of course. So I'm trying to keep this above here. I'm going to be trading on less accounts for the most part. I kind of turned off the copier for some of my accounts. So I can try to maintain my profitability here. Of course, I'm still going to make profit and I'm gonna have some losses here and there, but I'm trying to maintain it. So with that being the case, I am lowering my risk across the board. So you'll probably see me make less profits. I'm still going to make pretty good profits, but not in the 44,000 range, right? Because that can really sway the profitability. All right, so we have some trades over here, 740. This is against momentum for a buy. That's not going to be an entry. It's going to be a no entry because we have a we had a buy momentum that was already there. So we had this one at 649. This is going to be the next one. It's going to be a sell. So depending on what's going to be there. Yeah, exactly. Daniel said, yeah, we should book a block at some resort. Yeah, I think that'd be fun, like so you could bring your family or whatever and we could all kind of meet up. I think it'd be fun. Yeah, Daniel said, I'm wishing you an eight-figure year, Sean. I mean, that's the goal, right? It's like my goal for this year, and we talked about this. So on January 2nd, or even last year, or this time last year, I told you guys my goal for this year was to make a million, right? I've never made a million in 1 year from just trading, right? I think that's the key thing from just trading. Obviously, I have other businesses and stuff that make me money, but from just trading, we set out our goal here on January 2nd of this year, and I slowly climbed that ladder. It took a long time, but I climbed that ladder, right? Every month, every day, every month counted. So from January here, I had we actually weren't starting out so hot. I think I had a couple losses right here on my first day of trading. I was negative 6,000, and then I made it right back, and then I made more profit, and I lost a little bit here middle of January, and then I finally made it back, and I started to make a lot more profit as we continued on, right? So my goal for this year was to make a million, of course. Next year we're going to double that, if not triple that, if not quadruple that, right? Um, so I'm excited. No, I'm super excited. Hopefully you guys are excited. My goal for this year was met, and we're just gonna have bigger goals, right? Every year it's just gonna be bigger and bigger and bigger. Making profits from trading specifically. So we've got a ways to go, but I'm excited. Definitely excited for what's to come. Let's see. Sam said, I see algo proving great trades. Just have to be careful with spreads and bad entries. I take MPSV2 for 15 instead of 20 for a reason. Yeah, exactly. You have to adapt with the market, right? So Sam said, yeah, have a great day, guys, and we'll see you next week. All right, Sam, we'll see you back here on Monday. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. As you guys can see, price here is kind of chopping up back and forth. This is probably a good time to run that bot that I introduced to you guys yesterday. If you guys want to use that bot that I showed you, I mean, I can give you the link, but like I said, it's very expensive and I don't think it's worth it. Masij is working on his own specific bot here, so that's a cool thing to see in play. But yeah, I would just wait for Masij to finish his bot and kind of play around with that one because the other bot is just it's way too expensive. It's like it's 2,000 bucks for like a basic bot, and I wouldn't want you guys to waste your money on something like that, especially if you can't use it for your profit counts, right? And Masij, for those levels on that bot. Do you have it already set to like, does it adjust for you or do you just have it set to like 10? Like what I was doing? Okay, perfect. No, that's great. Yeah, because the thing is, that's one thing that I thought would need to be necessary. It could even be based off like ATR, I think. I don't know if you base it off the ATR, but I think the ATR is a good metric to follow. Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, I said ATR and a couple other things. That's what I thought. Yeah, because the ATR is, when it shifts, it makes a big difference. Because if you guys are not familiar with the ATR is average true range. What it does is it pretty much tells you what the average movement per candle is for the previous 14 candles. That's a default settings. You can change it to lower or you can change it to higher. But for the most part, it shows that on average, it's moving about 25 points, right? So like if it breaks out like this, you're like, obviously this is an outlier candle, but every other candle prior to it is about 25 points. Yeah. All right. We have this against momentum coming up at 749. This is going to be, yeah, this is going to be a no entry. The reason why it's no entry is because it's for a sell, and we have a sell momentum already here. This one over here is against momentum with a 7.93 max drawdown, 52% weighted average, 50% overall, 44% for buys, 54% for sells, and a 1.8% or point profit factor. So I'm going to update the spreadsheet again, no entry there. And there's one last one right here coming up. Last one at 750. This one has a flickering momentum. So this is actually good. So the flickering momentum that goes in the opposite way actually works well with against momentum trades. I'm like curious if like this could be useful for us too. Like if we have a flickering momentum, but we have an against trade, here we'll see. I'm gonna use this as an example here, right? We'll use this as an example to see if the flickering momentum actually works good with against momentum type trades. This flickering momentum came up at 7:47, so that's about 3 minutes ago. That actually meets the criteria for when to avoid. We'll see. Yeah, Masisha, the best part is through the market flow analysis bot, I can see when the breakout candles are coming. Should work, same logic, just opposite. Okay, no, I definitely agree. Yeah, so let's see. This is going to be, we're going to use this as an example. Candle's about to close. Man, I'm hoping my sickness is gone by Monday because this is so horrible. Being on this live session and all I'm doing is like, sounds like my nose is clogged up. All right, so we got this right here. This is a 750 entry. Let's see, I'm gonna put this over here just so that we can kind of follow it, you know? All right, so we're using this as an example right here. And I mean, from the data, the against momentums usually don't work well. Also, if it's such a big target, but they're highlighted in yellow for a reason because those are entries that we don't take. But if you guys wanted to take them, you guys could. But yeah, guys, if there's any other questions that you guys have, feel free to hop into the chat. Otherwise, we will follow this here and see where this ends up going. So looking at the higher time frames, sorry guys, 1 second. My nose is super clogged up. Sickness is getting worse. All right, so like we said, the entry is currently running right now. I mean, this thing might linger for a bit. Um, we're actually in this period where the volatility is like really, really low. Yeah, so you can see the ATR drop down quite a bit. It was at like 20, it was at 30, then it went down to 25. Now it's down to 23. So, all right, Masih said, okay, y'all heading out. Looking forward to sharing the bot with you. Flying back to Europe on Sunday, so it may be a bit delayed. All right, so Masih, have a good weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Hopefully, you have a safe flight back to Europe on Sunday, and we'll hear from you once you're back. So, yeah, we'll be in touch. hopefully everything goes as smoothly as planned. But yeah, we'll see you back here on Monday, Masish. So have a good weekend. We'll see you then. All right, guys, if there's any other questions that you guys have, feel free to hop into the chat. This is the last entry for the day, so there's not really much else here to look at. Let me go over the spreadsheet real quick. So the spreadsheet again over here is I updated this. Yeah, so looking at the spreadsheet over here, guys, and if you guys have access to the premium, I mean, feel free to get you guys can find this on the Discord. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, the market here is pretty much flat for the most part. It is a break-even week for the official trades that we took. So Monday over here, or so it might be at a negative 1R, or maybe even like a little bit like a little, some people might have a loss, some people might have a win. The reason for that is because this entry over here on Monday, if you guys remembered, I moved my stop loss in profit. This was the first day that we shifted to a 60/30. So I just wasn't comfortable holding it for the full 60. So I moved my stop loss in profit. Obviously, when the in profit got triggered, there was some slippage across, accounts. So because of this here, where it was partial profit, um, technically it's break even week, but there may be some slight red because of this specific trade. And then for the losses over here, there was some slippage on these two because, like, for whatever reason, price spiked when it hit the stop losses on those. But yeah, I mean, this week wasn't a really great week, guys, unfortunately. It was either break even or a negative 1R for the most part. So if you took every trade, negative 1R. If you took the official trades, it'd be at break even, depending on slippage and depending on if you held the trade to the full 60. And then also, you'll see some people do have profits for this week, and that's because they applied more entries or they sat out of certain ones. Like, for example, there's a couple losses over here, but a lot of people didn't take these losses because we identify these as bad trades, right? Same with today, right? Today there was a couple losses here, but I don't think anybody took any of these. I didn't hear anybody mention any losses for today. So I didn't take any trades for today. I'm flat. And then we had these listed here as trades that came up, but I didn't take them, and I don't think anyone else took them either. But yeah. All right, guys. If there's any other questions that you guys have, feel free to hop into the chat. This trade is still running. I'm not in this position. This is against momentum. Um, but yeah, the main changes here again are going to be the weighted average overall win rate. And I think I'll post this up in a few. So in a right when I get off this session, I'm gonna just make some edits here, kind of clean this up a little bit so it's easier to read and easier to follow. And then I'll post this up on the Discord for those of you who want to look at the data. So I think Nikki wanted it, but if you guys want to take a look at it as well, it will be available on the Discord. Yeah, Lila said you got to get better. It's Princess's first Christmas. I know. I'll be good over the next couple days. I'm already getting to that point where my sickness is like uh I'm just coughing now. But hopefully over the next week or so, I'll be good. But all right, guys, if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord. I'm gonna hang around for a little bit on the Discord because I'm gonna edit this a little bit to make it easier to read. But yeah, if you guys want this data, it'll be posted to the algo page, and you guys can take a look. It has all the statistics here, it has all the different time frames, not time frames, risk rewards. So if you want to see how these hit for one-to-ones, one-to-twos, 30, 40, 40, 20, etc., whatever it may be, all the data is going to be on here. So it'll be a nice little informational packet to look at to see if there's anything that you guys want to change or make adjustments to and to help with, your trading. So, all right, guys, I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, hit me up on Discord. Otherwise, have a great weekend, guys, and I will see you guys back.